Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Peter Abraham. I'm a second career registered nurse, primarily focused in advanced illnesses, those that would qualify for either palliative care or hospice care. Those are two separate services. I'm also a certified end-of-life doula through the International Doula Life Movement, an end-of-life educator. I'm an avid writer and book author. If you're new to this channel, welcome. Thank you so much for taking the time to visit. In this channel, we talk about issues related to death and dying. After all, we are all going to die. Wouldn't it be better if we understood what that process looked like? If these are topics that interest you, please consider subscribing and hitting the bell notification below. I try to publish videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. There'll be video discussions for my fellow hospice nurses, my fellow holistic nurses, caregivers, family members, sometimes patients themselves, as well as my fellow end-of-life professionals, including death doulas, for which I am one. The topic for today's video, and by the way, if you do like these videos, do like it as well. The topic for today's video is how do you become a death doula? Specifically focused on the most common advice that I'm seeing as we head into October 2025. Before we go into today's topic, I want to ask you the question, what are you grateful for? What are you grateful for? Yesterday, I'm being transparent. I was messaging somebody for a few days, a family member. I'm just trying to be cautious for the details I share because of privacy. A family member going in to see a very young loved one who was a special needs, who was on hospice. And they thought, and they actually asked at least once to one of the nurses that the death rattle was involved. And it turned out later on the nurse was wrong. Yes, we nurses can be wrong. But when this person shared this with me, and this is just via the internet. I've seen pictures that this person sent me pictures of the uh, person, and they're rather young. I literally started bawling. I literally, tears were just coming down. And I share that with you because even when you work in the field and you're doing this, whether you want to say for a living or a calling, whatever words you use, we don't lose our emotions. I know some people will be, we're the game face 24/7, and we're the calmest person in the room. And if you're able to do that and maintain your humanity, wonderful. But for me, in order to maintain my humanity, um, I am not going to shy away from just letting my emotions flow. I do control being angry. I shouldn't say anger. I'm talking like my wife when she's teasing our dogs about eating. Do you hunger? Oh my. But I believe that if we build resilience when these events happen in our lives, not just people dying, but a loss of any kind. You didn't get a job. I'm dealing with I film these in advance of their publication on YouTube. I'm dealing with a loss where I had an opportunity to go to Frankfort, Kentucky for specialized training, but because of what they would like the students to do was literally, and I do mean literally, print out 274 pages on our own, and how to get them bound, yeah, because it's just three-ring binder, whatever the case may be, on short notice. And it was like, I this is too much for a 11-hour day, 3 hours round trip travel, everything involved, and over a subject matter that I've received training on, that I know the training could be done in far less than 8 hours, but that's me. They're going to do it their way, which is fine. But hey, I can't do this. I know if I try, and I know somebody might say, well, you're defeating yourself before you try. And yes, you're right. But it's like pick your battles. And that's a battle I didn't want to pick. So staying on topic, what am I grateful for? Like I had that loss. What am I grateful for? I'm grateful for my wife, Laura, who stands by me through thick and thin. And yes, there are times we'll argue and fight sometimes over the silliest of things. I'm grateful for uh, trying to be a co-member of a caregiver group in Berea. I was there yesterday at the library. Nobody showed up. What are you grateful for? Nobody showed up. Because I was grateful that I went. It may sound oxymoronic, but it's like that's one where I didn't let the autism beat me. I beat the autism, so I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful, and I didn't get the author copy yet, but I do have the third edition of the hospice documentation book out there with the brand new chapter on hope documentation. I do hope to be going over that in the not too distant future. So before I go over too much on rabbit trails, and not that this is a rabbit trail, speaking of gratitude, please ask yourself daily, sometimes several times a day, what are you grateful? It helps build a resilient heart because when the storm hits, you look at all, like I put in my journal every time I receive some encouragement, every time, every time I receive some encouragement, I put in this family that I've been helping remotely as an end of life doula. They sent me a electronic thank you card yesterday because of that they said I made the person's day. And I'm not sure to what degree I can share what I did, mainly because it might be revealing to identify the person involved. And again, I take privacy seriously, but it ended with that I made the person laugh, and it was a sweet laughter, and they haven't laughed in a long time. And as a side note, I'm not good at being humorous. I could be laughed at, but to make somebody laugh, it's not. I'm not Robin Williams, but I put that in my journal. I have electronic journal so I can capture the pictures and everything else that was sent over, and so I'll record that so that when tragedy and different things happen, I can go through because I have it. I could set up. I've already set it up the filter. Oh, I just want to look at encouragement, and I can go through and see. Look at what God has done for me. Look at what God has done for me. We'll get through this. And I know that even in times where my wife and I have been both suffering, the two of us will be both encouraging one another. And some of that is with the memories of the times of gratitude. So be grateful, express your gratitude. Now, going into today's topic, more and more and more. Sometimes in the one Facebook group, it's all about, give me one moment. Yes, I should have went there and prepared the group. All things Death Doula. So the name is All Things Death Doula. So in that forum, but also others uh, on Facebook, how do I become a death doula? I'm called to this field, and this will be a small rabbit trail. My frustration is I'm here to learn, and I'll write welcome, ask questions, and then they ghost everybody. They just, I guess they're lurking. But like, ask questions. Why are so many people afraid to ask questions? They'll be the follower. I'm not saying that's bad. I don't want to be judgmental, but ask questions. But in that all things about death doulas, someday there's like 10 people. How do I become a death doula? And then if you add up the other forums, there's probably another 10 or more. And if those are the people who have the courage to ask, what about the people who are wondering the same thing? And I do want to give an answer to that. And then I also want to get into a common answer that's concerning to me because there are issues with it. So, in terms of how to become a death doula, how to become a death doula, your most economical route, and I'm biased, most economical route, I have a book. I have a book. This is the 8.5 by 11. This is a complete guide. It actually is 2 books in one. If you prefer 6 by 9, same title, with the subtitle of Foundations in Practice, same title in Business Growth. Now, just so you're aware, reading a book doesn't get you certified. This does not get you certified. Uh, Certification is literally a graduation certificate. It is not like being a certified nursing assistant where it is a accredited institution with a governing body, which CNAs, it's usually the state is the governing body. Like I'm in Kentucky, so it'd be the Kentucky state. When I lived in PA, it was Pennsylvania state. They're the governing body over the accredited school. So the governing body, I do oversight. I'm making sure that the accredited institutions that are teaching the same baseline. So everybody gets the same foundation as everyone else. Some may get more, but they'll never get less than the foundation. That's genuine certification. And I put that out there because there is a doula school that is extremely well known. I will not mention them, but they're extremely well known. And the founder is beyond well known. They're a type of celebrity. Um, and they compare their school as to literally, and I do mean literally, they compare it to going to RN school. And my mind blows, like it's still here, obviously, but it kind of blows up internally as to like you realize like RN schools are accredited and there's a governing body like the and it's the same governing body in all 50 states, meaning that even though it's state like the Kentucky Board of Nursing, the Pennsylvania Board of Nursing, they all follow the same guidelines so that if me coming from Pennsylvania going to Kentucky, please endorse my nursing license. I just had to prove that I knew the Kentucky state laws as it applies to nursing. I did take a jury appearance exam. In some states, it's like, here I got my proof, I got my background checks, my fingerprints, free pass, because it's the same foundation all throughout. Well, with end-of-life doulas or death doulas, um, and not all of them, I want to be very clear, not all doula schools teach one to be a life transition coach. Need to be very clear. Not every end-of-life doula school teaches somebody to be a life transition coach. That's more specialized. I can do that because I'm a registered nurse, and this is an unregulated, unaccredited, no governing body industry. So getting into how do you become a death doula, staying on track. Again, you can read a book. Uh, and you're not certified by the book, you can go to the National End of Life Alliance. I'm sorry, National End of Life Doula Alliance. Forgot that one important word. National End of Life Doula Alliance, NEDA, NEDA, and become a member for $50. Give them 2 to 3 days, 48 to 72 hours. Ensure that you're listed in the membership directory. Then you pay, I think it's $115, and you can use their self-study guide that's free and pass a proficiency test. And then you are the equivalent of certified. You didn't go to a formal school, but keeping in mind there's no accredited schools. But now you're certified. That's the most economical way. So you don't want certification, very economical. Next step up, NEDA. Well, what about after NEDA? What if you want to be able to go to a school with the understanding none of them are accredited? Well, I'm going to be putting a link in the description below that on compassioncrossing.info, compassioncrossing.info, I have a list of 5 4 of them are actual schools because the 5th is NIDA. 4 of them are actual schools. I went to the International Life Movement. I am biased. I'm putting that out there. I do believe they're the best school. Do I have issues with some of their topics? Yes. Some of the one topic, I sometimes I like when they get into the one topic, I turn off my camera when I'm doing live because it gets frustrating for me. And my autism kicks in and I don't want to interfere with them. Well, I'm on mute, so it's not like but so yeah, there are some issues. There just like there's no perfect church, there's not gonna be a perfect, end of life doula school. But what makes the international life movement special is Anna Adams, the founder, does her very best. I did a continuing education class. We're going to talk about that in a moment. That's one of the benefits. I did one on HIPAA for non-medical professionals yesterday, and she asked me to stay on. And she said, she's been working 7 days a week because she's preparing for the next cohort. The International Life Movement does on-site classes. So if you're in one of the states, and they're in several states, we're looking at Kentucky, maybe for 2026 or 2027, where if you're in the state and you can travel to the location within the state, we're considering, might be Louisville. I'd rather them do it in Lexington or Richmond because it's closer for me. I'm in Berea. Uh, but you're close enough, you could actually go to I'm sorry, live classes. And some of their live classes are at places where there are people dying. And so you're getting everything that you can possibly get on site. They're one of the few schools on site. They have live and they have self-study. And the live is through Google Meet, which you can get very interactive. Ask questions. I'm a part-time instructor there since May. I actually started teaching in June, hired in May, teaching in June. Um, and I encourage, and all the instructors, here's our personal phone numbers. Here's our email address. Now I do ask, like the other instructors, text me your full name and that you're from IDLM, and that I know, like, if when we're talking, who I'm talking to. But they are constantly, Anna's constantly looking at updating the program. She takes constructive feedback. I had the opportunity a few Mondays ago. I taught session 9 of the first classes, like the end of life, like how do you get certified class, and I actually taught one of the classes, and it was on the stages of dying. And I found that I ended up teaching from my own material because the material that was there was close but not on par. And so I shared that with Anna, and so she's updating the material. So every time they do a class, there's a debriefing. What could I do better? What could I do better? So that the goal is that if there's ever a governing body, ever accreditation, IDLM doesn't say, give me 6 months or a year. IDLM is, here's the paperwork now. Accredit me now. I'm ready now. And not everyone is there. A lot of the other schools use pre-recorded, dry, often close to out of date videos. And they're getting people like, can you record a new video? Can you record a new video? And not that videos about this is a recorded video. And in time, it's going to be out of date. One of the reasons I updated my book about hospice documentation is, hey, chapter 6 on hospice admissions had a section on the hospice item set known as HIS or HIS. Well, that doesn't apply anymore. It was going to become irrelevant if I didn't update it. But I'm under the pressure to, next CMS change, next CMS change. But if it's live, you could have somebody say, like, to give you an example, when I taught session 9, um, in my hospice experience, I can count on one hand, actually it was three cases where people were actively dying wide awake in 6 years. So 3 in 6 years out of hundreds and hundreds, I'd never counted how many patients they cared for. I thought it was beyond rare. And one of the students said, Peter, They have a dozen cases on their side. Wow. I mean, I know I don't know it all, but like, wow. So we're learning from our students, and we're all sharing that information. We're debriefing, we're updating. So IDLM, the International Life Movement, is the most updated school out there. The most updated school. So other benefits, by the way, you take any course. Doesn't have to be, maybe you're certified anywhere else, somewhere else. Maybe you don't want to be certified as a doula, but you want to be certified as a grief coach, or you want to be certified as dealing with pet loss. You take any one of their courses, you now receive for your life free continuing education classes. So, and a part of our discussion yesterday, Peter, I know you sent me a year's worth of proposed CE classes, and I'm saying, yes, I did, but keep in mind, we're changing the order of when they're delivered, um, because that's part of the dynamic nature, which is a good thing, because I'm going to the students and saying, what next would you like to see versus me? I'm going to be blunt, shoving them down their throats what I think is best for them. We're doing polls and we're getting input. And so a lot of them said that they want to do Canva for business marketing and design. So October's Canva. And Miranda Witherspoon and myself are doing interactive. So everybody coming to that session. And I will be looking at making that, if we make that open to the public at large for a small fee. But it's not going to be a dry lecture. There's no going to be presentation slides. It's going to be you're logging into Canva, could be a free account, could be paid, and we're going to go through different things, and you're going to tell us stuff you're struggling with, and we're going to go back and forth with live presentation screens, and we're going to work through things for an hour. You have two experts in Canva going back and forth. I am just looking so much forward to that. It's the last Sunday in October, 5 p.m. If you're interested, you're not a student of IDM, please comment below. Please comment below. So IDLM, Free Continuing Education for Life. They work with, I'm coming to a close on IDLM, then I'm going to go to the other students. I'm going to deal with the red flag issue. So IDLM, Anna works with creating partnerships with other people. She created a partnership with Renity, which is a new startup company that I think we're getting like a year of Renity for free. She's partnered with Lifebooks. Lifebooks is where I've done a video before about mural life. The mural life is where you could do a lifetime mural of your loved one, a lifetime eulogy, pictures, videos, everything else that's on the web for life. And 𝐂𝐈𝐄𝐄 is the founder of that. And but Lifebooks is where you, preferably as the doula, because we're trained in legacy projects. You as the doula work with lifebooks.io and you create an actual hardcover book with pictures, and they can use QR codes for videos that are digitally stored. But you have this wonderfully bound, and it's not bound with the traditional bounding, it's actually sewed. And I'm not good at making, I don't sew, my wife does, but the binding is actually sewn so that the book could last multiple generations. And Anna has arranged that students receive one book, a $250 value for free. Whether the student wants to do that, use that for their own, because a lot of people coming into doulas lost somebody, whether they want to do that for their own purpose or their very first end of life doula client, they could either do it as a gift or say, this is normally $250, but I'll give you whatever. And I'm not going to name a price, but it just Anna works like that to just try to make different deals. For example, with Delato, which is a invoicing, billing, electronic portal system for doulas, she arranged for 6 months free. So she's out there doing that. So in terms of the other schools out there, Laurel Nicholson, and this is at compassioncrossing.info. So compassioncrossing.info, go to the site, click on the resource button. That's going to be upper right. Resources. table of contents, end of life doula resources, and then just a little bit down because my books will be listed first. Then there's going to be some, find a doula, but there's a list of schools. First one, International Life Movement. Before I go to Laurel, second one I believe is the International End of Life Doula Association in Elda. That's the second one. Third one is, I believe, Laurel Nicholson. She's the only, at present, faith-based, Christian faith-based end-of-life doula school. She only does the initial certification. Some of the other schools like IDLM and ELDA go above and beyond in terms of certify for this and certify for that with the understanding certifications or graduation certificates. But Laurel Nicholson's right now the only one out there. I do know that Joe Arch, she's out in Texas. She runs a home care, like a caregiver agency. She's working on creating a Christian-based doula school. Right now, it's just foundational, insofar as I know. Maybe it'll be available by the end of this year, early next year. There's also Casey, and I'm not gonna. I'll kill Casey's last name, but it begins with a G. Hers is literally like Death Doula School, and then there's the National End of Life Doula Alliance uh, as well. So, and that's not a school per se; it's just a way to get certified. Those are five. I know there's others. I know people. If you want to comment below, there's Going with Grace, and there. Oh, I apologize. I do apologize. There's one more listed on the site. I do apologize. I'm sorry. Short-term memory, my bad. University of Vermont. University of Vermont. And they are good. And yes, there's other ones out there, but some of the other ones out there are thousands of dollars. I'm not saying I think Casey's is on the higher end of the ones listed, and I don't have memorized for the and I don't know Laurel Nicholson's, and I don't know University of Vermont. I know IDLM is under 1,000. I don't know Inelda's, but some of the other schools, um, I'm just leery of the education. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying it's bad. It's just I don't know enough. And I know because this is an unregulated industry, no government body, no oversight, nobody to double check the foundation. And there's a lot of wrong information out there. I'm going to give you one example, actually two examples of wrong information, and I want to go into the red flag that I need to talk about, or feel compelled to talk about. So some of you have been watching this know that I am a heavy participator in the primary hospice end of life group on Facebook. They don't give a rating scale. I just know I'm listed as a top contributor, and for some groups, it doesn't take a lot to get there. This is one that does. But there was one end of life doula that I don't know if they were certified or not, but they were using AI to answer all the questions, and some of the answers were wrong. And thankfully, she stopped using AI. I did have a private conversation with her. I'd never try to embarrass anyone. But another person was trained by an end of life doula. And I am friends with this person on my Facebook page, and they're very active on YouTube. I think that they share right information, so this could be a student issue. I want to be very clear, could be a student issue. But they were posting in the end of life group when somebody they posted a one sentence, the person's sleeping more, and this person's answering. They're transitioning, and they gave another answer as well. The other answer, which I believe was, let them give them whatever food they want, and then let them say no and respect and no. That was perfect. I couldn't have been perfect. But I'm like, why are you saying they're transitioning? You got to be careful with what you're telling people, and I strongly believe that because transitioning is stage one of the dying process. You have transitioning and active dying. And I said, there is not enough information to tell them that. And I did I did say, I'm a hospice nurse. And well, I work for a hospice too. And I said, you need to be careful. And I hate, I'm being honest. I'm trying to be honest. I hate pulling any type of licenses, degrees, or anything else. I hate pulling the "I know more than you" because I don't want to be like, oh, get in your place, because that's what it feels like. But I also don't want people to get bad information. And so I said, I train, hospice nurses on prognosis. I train in this. I know it's not enough information. And she came back and said, people can transition for years. Everyone's different. Now, she was right, everyone's different. But the moment she said transition for years, I'm literally going to her Facebook profile and she trained under this other person. And it was like, and she has listed she works for hospice, but she doesn't have as what. So if you're not putting, normally if you do work for if you put on your Facebook page, you work for hospice, but you don't have a position listed. And I'm not saying this to down anyone. I just want to be very clear. It often means you're a volunteer, which is going to be the red flag area, not because of this person, but it typically means you're a volunteer. You're not a credentialed person, because otherwise you'd say hospice CNA, a social worker, chaplain, nurse. You wouldn't just say hospice. Again, somebody, if you please feel free to comment, could be wrong, but I'm like, they don't transition for years. The longest I've seen is 4 weeks. I've had colleagues say 6. I could even believe 3 months if somebody gave me, they were a hospice nurse. I believe or even a social worker, but I believe the nurse more, because social workers are not taught to prognose. And while they may know some of the signs, I would trust a nurse over a social worker. Somebody, a nurse came and said, oh, I know somebody that's longer than 6 weeks for transition. But let's get into the meat for a red flag. What I see a lot of people saying in the different death doula groups on how to become a death doula. Instead of telling people to go read a book on how to become a death doula, or preferably go to a death doula school that has the one that's interested, have researched, free discovery. Almost everyone is a free discovery call. And if they don't, major red flag. Interview them, interview people that have gone there. Instead of you doing that, which is the right way, the right path, and yes, it's my opinion, they're telling people, if you want to be a death doula, become a hospice volunteer. If you want to go down the road of becoming a death doula, become a hospice volunteer. They're saying that's the primary way. That's the primary way. You need to become a hospice volunteer, and then you can become a death doula. Or become a hospice volunteer, and now you're a death doula. Couple things. And so that you're aware, not only am I a hospice nurse, when I was in nursing school, before I even knew hospice was a calling for me, I was a hospice companion volunteer. I was a hospice companion volunteer for over a year. And then when I got here to Kentucky, I was a hospice companion volunteer as well. One moment here. Let me just shut off something. And so I'm a hospice companion volunteer. Number one, when hospices train you to be a volunteer, they are not training you to be a death doula. I repeat, when hospices are training you to be a volunteer, they are not training you to be a death doula. I want to give fine print. Well, I wish we lived in a world of fine print. Some hospice agencies, there's at least one, if not more, in the state of Ohio, for example, are telling their volunteers, we're training you to be a death doula for free. Sign this. You cannot charge anyone ever for being a death doula. If you live and practice within 50 miles of any of our clinics or agencies, you can't charge, which means you can't make a living. And I know there are some people, like there was some people, that was a person that was very mean yesterday and all about All Things Death Doula group where a hospice nurse was asking about how to be a death doula, and they were talking about how do you get paid for this. And one person, you better stick to being a nurse. We do this out of the kindness of our heart. I work on a sliding scale. That's how I do it, the kindness of my heart, but I also have to earn a living. And it's okay to earn a living. Don't shame people into thinking that this has to be free work. It doesn't, especially if you're properly trained. And this is part of the issue. We talk about those saying, go become a hospice volunteer. And just so that you're aware, if you're a hospice provider, I'm not telling people never become hospice volunteers. I was one. I believe in the volunteer cause, and hospice needs volunteers. What I'm telling people is if your goal is to become an end-of-life doula or death doula, be cautious, yellow to red, cautious on this route. So I'm the companion volunteer for over a year during nursing school. And the only reason I stopped is I moved outside of the service area. I moved from Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, where I was a volunteer, to Harrisburg, and they didn't have any cases. And then after, well, going for my BSN and everything else, I needed to focus on that. And whatever I do, maybe this is part of my INFJ, Myersburg INFJ, I give 100%. So when I'm companioning, it's 100%. And I needed to invest in my BSN. I completed it in 6 months, 2 weeks. But getting back to the volunteer, they trained me on HIPAA, the race, for the fire, what rescue who you can, alarm, contain if you can. I think the E's, escape, or maybe I'm using the wrong acronym for the fire. Maybe that's the acronym. Oh, it's AIM is the acronym for the fire extinguisher. Short-term memory issues. But they train you on the rules and regulations for hospice. I have never been a hospice volunteer, and I've worked for several agencies, and I know what their training program's like. They don't train you on the stages of dying. When I was a companion volunteer for a little over a year, the hospice nurse will come in and say hi occasionally. Wouldn't come in and tell me how the person's doing medically, which was okay. That wasn't my business. I'm there to be the companion. I'm not there to be anything other than the companion. And this is key. This is key. Because if your intent is, I'm going to learn about being a death doula by being a companion volunteer, you have to, your mouth, when it comes to your doula business. If you're telling the patient or the family, I'm doing this because I'm going to be a death doula, you're now crossing ethical boundaries. I'm not trying to be judgmental. You're playing with fire. And if the hospice agency that you're volunteering with doesn't know this and they hear that you're doing this, you can get into trouble. They can say, this is an ethical violation. You cannot be running your own business trying to get our patients on as your clients. They're not there to teach you how to be a death doula. You are there to be a companion to the person on hospice. Now, what you'll learn as a companion, you'll learn people skills, soft skills that you may not have had. Maybe you're not like I came from the IT background, my soft skills sucked. Being very blunt, my soft skills sucked coming from the IT background. If I'm an introvert, I'm autistic, get the picture. So being a companion volunteer teaches you a lot of soft skills because you have to learn when to shut this, when to open this, and how to speak compassionately. You learn HIPAA by the back of your hand, or like don't screw with privacy. You'll see different family interactions. You'll see stuff you don't want to see and you don't want to remember, but you are going to, and you're going to. It's part of life. but they're not going to teach you. Like if you're with somebody who is transitioning, but you don't know they're transitioning, you're not going to come and have anybody come in and say, Peter, or whatever your name is, this person's transitioning and this is what transitions looks like. You're not there. They're not there to educate you on how to be a death doula. You're there to be a companion. Or for the one agency, I was a receptionist, which was fine because it was about them, not me. And if you're going to become a hospice volunteer to be a death doula, it's about them, not you. It's about them, not you. This is the red flag. If you want to be a death doula, please don't become a hospice companion volunteer because you want to be a death doula. That is hard advice. It's troublesome advice because number one, first and foremost, even if you're you're ones in Ohio and you're okay that you never charge. And keep in mind, never is a powerful word. 5 years from now, oh, that's right, I signed this. I can't charge for my entire life. That's huge. That is huge. Even if they're providing you trading, it's under the guise of every one of their regulations, their rules, how much time to spend. Oh, you can't talk about this. You can't talk about that. As true end-of-life doulas, just genuine, authentic end-of-life doulas. I talked in this channel before, authentic palliative care is symptom burden driven. Authentic palliative care is symptom burden driven, not on a diagnosis, not on a prognosis. The moment you have somebody saying that our palliative care is cancer that's life-limiting, you're not authentic anymore. With end-of-life doulas, the moment you say you can't talk about this, if the patient, even if the patient wants to, you can't go down that road, even if the patient wants to, you're no longer authentic. So as an end-of-life doula who wants to be authentic, wants to be genuine, I could spend whatever time that I want to spend. And to give you an example of how petty hospices can be, and I don't mean this to be derogatory to hospices because they report to the Center for Medicare Services regardless of what insurance is paying for the patient. I still remember my one rural home patient that I love the family. We got along well. They enjoyed me as their nurse. And I'm at the kitchen table, and I'm the type of nurse where everything is done in the visit. Everything. I do my education, I do my assessment, the education. I call in refills to the pharmacies. I call the doctor, I call new scripts in, I call DME, and I do all my documentation in the visit. Everything. And the only time I do not document in the visit is if it's an admission visit. But even recertification visits, because I'm the over-compulsive planner that does stuff in advance, everything's in the visit. I got done early. I got done, I think it was like 27 minutes. That was not rushing. I'm a type, like I came from IT. I type like 150 to 180 words a minute. Bluetooth keyboard. My documentation complete. Everything is complete. I asked the family, is there anything else? And I felt that if I were to just stay for the sake of staying, I would be harming the relationship. So I said, I ended the visit. I got their signature that I was there. And the next day, I got chastised. Peter, you were there for 27 minutes. And I'm like, okay, the visit, I couldn't do more. Like, I literally could not do more. Peter, we can't bill Medicare. They require 30 minutes. You could have went and sat in your car and not got a signature. They were petty over like 3 minutes. So if I'm an end-of-life doula and I'm with somebody, they may be saying, you have to stay this long, could be on the short end, or you can't stay more than X on the long end. Or you're not allowed to discuss, for example, let me go, you can't talk anything religious. What if the patient wants to? I'm going to go with what the patient wants within my ethical, moral, legal background. I'm not going to do anything illegal, immoral, and unethical. But if I've had discussions about Christ Jesus with atheists. Chaplain didn't like it. Stay in your lane. But that's what the patient wanted. The patient actually asked for the discussion. I'm going to give the patient what they would like within the capabilities that I'm able to. So number one, you're in the hospice rules and regulations. Number two, and this actually came up in one of the end-of-life doula groups. Person went to go become, they thought in order to become a death doula, they had to become a hospice companion volunteer. So they're going down that road. And the hospice agency wanted them to get a TB test. So that's where they put a chemical underneath, just the first layer. It creates a little bubble, and if the bubble goes away within you come back in 48 hours, and they feel it. No bubble, you don't have tuberculosis after that. They have to do either chest X-ray or blood work. And this person didn't want to go through that route. Well, almost every hospice, I went through that route. I had to get a TB test to be a hospice companion volunteer, even though I had a fresh TB test. Fresh from February of 2024. I'm TB negative. And nope, got to get one every year here in Kentucky. We can't take your PA1. Well, you don't. You're not a hospice companion volunteer. Guess what? You don't need a TB test. So and also, by the way, and I need to put this out there, and this breaks my heart. They Most places that I know of were not giving any type of exemptions for the COVID vaccines for their hospice volunteers. You're under all their vaccine mandates. I know some of you watching believe in vaccines and don't care whether you're violating human rights by mandating them. Even though the very patients, I've had patients that refuse their Lasix, their this, their that. I don't want morphine, whatever. We respect our patient rights. Well, they're human beings. We are too. So if you're under the hospice companion volunteer, you're under all of their policies, rules, and regulations. One. Two, you cannot talk about your doula business to your patients. If you do, or the family, if you do, and the hospice agency finds out, you could be in a lot of trouble. Not only losing the ability to be a companion, you could be blacklisted. They'll let every hospice agency know, don't work with this person, which now really screws over your doula business because they're not going to be a referral source to you. You're there for the patient and the family only. Yes, your eyes and ears, and you're going to learn, but you're not going to have people come in and say they're going through this because they're going through that because, or they have this disease and this is why they're going through this. They're not there to train you. You're there to be the companion. You're there to be the companion. None of the staff have to train you. Yes, you can ask questions. I would have volunteers ask questions to me. What does this mean? And what does that mean? I love educating everyone. I would educate. I don't ask them, why are they asking? Because I love to educate. That's me. But the majority of them out there are going to be, you don't need to know that. You're the volunteer. Or they might be more cautious on HIPAA because you're the volunteer. You're not there to learn how to be a death doula. You're there to learn how to be a companion volunteer and to be the companion volunteer. I cannot stress that enough. You are there for them, not you. You're there for them, not you. And being a death doula is more than sitting bedside. Being a death doula, if you're trained, you're able to go to the family and the caregivers. This is the transitioning phase. Or if you see this, this means they're losing their ability to swallow. And that means that we now need to look at thickening agents, or at least let's talk about thickening agents. They have dysphagia. If you're going to a doula school, the doula school, if they're a good school, they're going to train you. Like I was talking to Anna, she was asking me, and I don't know the answer yet because I'm taking a grief course with Lindy Carter that teaches on Mondays. But she's saying, on 1020, could I potentially teach the class? And the class is learning common diseases and infection control, including infectious diseases. That's what the school is teaching the students. Common diseases and those infectious diseases, infection control. Now you do learn, if you're a companion volunteer, you learn the bare minimum of infection control, and I do mean bare minimum. But they don't teach you in depth for common diseases because you're there to be a companion. You're not there to be a death doula. So there's so much that you will not learn about the practice. So that if you and then let's say you leave that agency and say, now I'm trained, you could believe what you want to believe. I'm not saying this, and in a way, yes, this you could say, you could argue, you're being judgmental, Peter, and I have a hard time saying, no, I'm not. But that doesn't make you a death doula. The training is not sufficient because you're not going to know the different diseases. And I'm not saying doulas are trained to nurse capacity, by the way. I want to be very clear with that. Nurses, the end-of-life doulas are not trained to be an LPN or an RN capacity, but the best doula schools out there will actually train you on the disease processes better than a CNA. Now, keep in mind, CNA is an actual certification from a governing body. I'm not trying to lower CNAs, but a good school will teach you more than what CNAs learn for disease processes. They'll teach you more than what CNAs know about the dying process. Now, your good CNAs often are educating the nurses. I remember my CNA that was teaching me about odor. I think it was Jasmine, if I'm remembering the nurse. I'm sorry, I'm remembering the CNA. There's an odor the last month of life. But so I'm not, as I'm sharing this, there are CNAs, because they've been doing it so long, they can whip death doulas, nurses alike around the table, so to speak. But being a companion volunteer, there's so much you will never learn because you're there to be the companion. The hospice is not going to trade you to be a death doula. You're under their rules, their regulations, their policies, and you cannot advertise, you cannot talk about. You do, like, you're in dangerous water. I'm doing this because I want to be a death doula. You're playing with fire. Please don't go down that road. I'm not saying don't be a companion volunteer. Let me end with this. I'm on the landing zone. Let me end with this. I told the hospice agency here in Richmond, Kentucky, that I run a concierge service that also is an end-of-life doula. I told them. I told them when I'm with my companion patients, I don't want to tell them I'm a nurse or a doula. I just want to be their companion. I just want to be their companion. Now, they flustered me, the agency, because they assigned somebody that they didn't explain what a volunteer can do or cannot do, and that led it on me to explain, which made it very hard because I am honest and the spouse is asking me questions. And then I came out that I'm a registered nurse, but I can't do what she wanted me to do, which is wound care or help with wound care. But I never mentioned that I'm a doula. I never even mentioned Compassion Crossing. I just, when she pushed as far as she did, I said I'm a registered nurse. And I didn't even, actually, I did say I'm a hospice registered nurse, but I'm saying I'm not your hospice registered nurse, and I am here only in the capacity of a volunteer. I'm here only in the capacity of volunteer. Well, Peter, why did you do that if they could never be a client? And this is where we are on the landing strip. I love helping people. I love helping people. Yesterday, before I was bawling, the one family member asked me, "Why did I become a hospice nurse?" She can't imagine the emotions. And I told her what I'm about to tell you. I grew up in a lot of abuse. Those of you who watch my video, "Can Somebody Like Me Be Saved?" I went into my background. I grew up with a lot of loss, a lot of abuse, a lot of hurt, heartache. I know what it feels like to feel like nothing, to feel like nothing matters, to feel like there is no hope, to feel like no one cares about me. And I don't want anyone to feel that way if I can help it. Anyone. That's why I do sliding scale. That's why I like to be in this field for if I can do just that much, even if the small, like I can't even make it small enough that it's a flake of rice. If I could do a flake of rice to quality, smile, a blessing, doesn't matter if I have to be silly. That to me is reward enough. And that's my, that's why, because I want to bless somebody. I don't want them to feel like nothing. I don't want them to feel like people gave up on them. I don't want them feeling alone or afraid. And I have no magic wands. I believe in God. I do believe in miracles. But I also know that God's not a vending machine. And it's not like you put in a certain amount of money and a miracle comes out. But that's my why. And if I could do that as a companion, if I could do that as a doula, if I could do that as a friend, and there are times where I'm going to be charging because I do have bills to pay and it's sliding scale again. That's my why. What's your why? And please comment below. This is a non-judgmental channel. I do thank you for your time and God bless.